Welcome back to Never Enough Novels. It's time for another book haul. I have received a few books from publishers recently in the mail, plus I took a trip to Barnes & Noble and snagged a few books for myself. And I have one surprise book that I recently picked up from the library that is not in my usual wheelhouse, but I am loving so far. I'm going to put the links to all these books down below, so if you find any you're interested in, you can grab them from Amazon and help support this channel at the same time. Plus, make sure you hit like on this video and subscribe to my channel to see more book recommendations and book hauls in the future. Kicking it off with some of the books that I got from publishers. First up is Never Planned on You by Lindsay Hammeroff. And this is from St. Martin's, so a huge thank you to them for sending this my way. This is going to be the second Lindsay Hammeroff that I've read. Her first one was, I think it was called Till There Was You. I adore her covers because they always have some sort of food on the front. Like Till There Was You had a huge deck of pancakes. Obviously this one has this gorgeous wedding cake. If you put food on the cover, I'm probably going to read it. But the first book that she wrote was so charming and adorable that I am equally excited to get into this one as well. So this one stars a character named Allie who has a reputation for spontaneity, and one time when she's in London she meets this stranger and they drunkenly decide to get matching tattoos. She kind of figures I'm never going to see this guy again. But now she's back home in Baltimore, and who walks into her favorite cafe but this guy from London who she never thought she would see again. So his name is Graham, and they are kind of reconnecting a little bit, but not really sure where this is going to go. So at the same time, Allie works as a wedding planner. So she gets a job planning this high profile wedding at this historic mansion or historic hotel. So it's kind of her big break, and she wants to do everything she can to make sure this wedding goes off without a hitch. But when she shows up and starts to get involved in the planning, she finds out that the groom is none other than her Graham. So obviously that is not what she expected, but there's more to the story. So it turns out that Graham's family actually owns the hotel, and he has returned to Baltimore to kind of help her grandmother get things back on their feet and hopefully bring it back to its former glory. So this wedding is happening just as a publicity boost, and he is not actually in love with his bride or anything like that. It's just going to be a marriage of convenience. So when Allie figures that out, it means that there is now actually a chance with Graham. But he still needs this wedding to happen because of the publicity that's needed. So there's kind of this tension back and forth between whether the wedding should go on or whether they should take a chance on pursuing something real. This book just came out recently, so you can grab it now if you're interested and read it right away. I think this is going to be next on my TBR because I think the story sounds really unique, and I love anything set kind of in the wedding planning business. I just always find that storyline so interesting. So this is one that I'm really excited to get to. Next up is a sports romance, and that's called Most Valuable Playboy by Lauren Blakely. Normally, I feel like Lauren is known for her hockey romances, but this one actually features a football player, so it's a little bit different than what I usually expect from her. And a huge thanks to Sourcebooks Casablanca for sending this one. This is actually a reprint of a previous novel. I guess it's the same novel, it just has a new updated cover and look. It's gorgeous, as you can see, and I love that the inside actually has this little design on the inside cover, which I think just makes it really unique. So Cooper Armstrong is our football player. He's a professional quarterback, and he is participating in this Most Valuable Playboy charity auction. He wants to be the guy who goes for the most money. But at the same time, trouble shows up in the form of a journalist who wants Cooper to marry her. So now he's kind of have to figure something out. So enter his best friend's little sister named Violet. And these two have been friends for a while, and he knows that he can rely on her for kind of anything that he needs. So they cook up this scheme where Violet will kind of save the day and bid the most money on him so that he doesn't have to be snatched up by anyone else. So when Violet wins the highest bid, they seal the deal with a kiss, and Cooper announces to the whole crowd that she is his new girlfriend, hoping to keep this journalist off his tail and out of his world. But it turns out this isn't going to be just a quick thing that neither of them has to worry about again, because Cooper's agent said it's better for his upcoming contract negotiations if it looks like he's in a stable relationship, and Violet is the perfect person for this job. So they enter this longer term fake dating scheme. And as these things tend to happen, what starts out fake ends up a little bit more real. I love that this one has so many tropes that I adore. So not only is it fake dating and, a sports romance, but it has that best friend's little sister aspect as well, which always just throws an interesting dynamic into these type of romances. I didn't have the chance to read this when it first came out a couple years ago, maybe 2018. So I'm really excited to read this updated version. And the last publisher book that I want to share is called Spells, Strings, and Forgotten Things. This one is by Brianne Randall, and this is from Dell Romance. So thank you to them for sending me a copy of this. This one, it's interesting because I follow the author on Instagram and she has a fantastic Instagram. Like, she's a really good follow if you're interested. But she tends to describe this book as like Bridgerton with witches, which, I was doing a little bit more research on what it's actually about, and I started to read the first couple of pages, and it's not actually set in like a historical setting, so it's modern times, but there's definitely an enemies to lovers thing happening, and obviously like our main characters are witches, plus there's a lot of like family interaction as well, so I think those are the pieces from Bridgerton that she's referencing, but any description like that is going to automatically have me hooked. And I think this one sounds really interesting. So our main character is Calliope. So she lives with her two sisters and they carefully guard the secret of their magic. And the price they must pay is kind of interesting because I like when there's a magic system where it comes with a cost. It's not just something for free that that their characters can do however they want. So the price of this magic system is memories. So basically, if they want to cast some sort of spell or do magic, they have to give up one of their memories. For Calliope, this isn't really a big deal because she has a lot of things that she wants to forget. Their mother who left without a trace, kind of the struggling situation with her sisters where she's feeling more distant from them, and the love of her life who shattered her heart a couple years ago. However, things take a turn for the worse when an ancient evil awakens and the thread that holds her sisters together is kind of threatening to break. So Calliope must figure out what to do to protect her family and kind of save their magic. And it turns out that she accidentally binds herself to the handsome leader of a rival coven, and they are battling this sizzling chemistry between them while also like absolutely detesting each other. And they're both trying to find a solution to protect this magic in her town and all of the people that she loves. I know it's not Halloween or like the spooky fall season when you'd probably normally read books about witches, but I think the concept of this sounds unique enough, and I trust this author to create a well-written romance, so I'm still very thrilled to give this a shot. So next up are the two books that I picked up from Barnes & Noble recently. The first one is a thriller, so I'll give us a little break from the romances, and this one is called The Final Girl Support Group. This was recommended to me recently, so when I saw it at Barnes & Noble, I figured why not give it a try. It's by Grady Hendrix. So this author also wrote The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, and they have another book coming out, I think, right around this time with something about witches as well. I haven't read anything by Grady Hendrix before, so I'm excited to try one of their books out just to see if I like the style, because I think the other two that I know of like sound really interesting as well. But anyway, this one is kind of a more basic thriller. It is about final girls. So if you haven't heard that term before, it's a reference often used in like movies or books to women who were kind of the sole survivors of some sort of massacre or murder event. So whether they like managed to get away or fought back or the killer just left them alone, they were the final girls left after a bunch of other people were murdered. So in this book, there is a final girl support group for a group of, I think, like 6 women who are kind of getting together and figuring out how to deal with this trauma and how to move past it and get on with their lives. However, one woman misses a meeting, and this sets off a chain of events where they start to realize that like their worst fears are being realized again. Someone is like knows about this final girl support group and is hunting them down one by one. So not only have they survived a horrific event in their past, it's kind of resurfacing and they're in another situation where their lives are in danger. This just sounded like a really intriguing thriller. I feel like it's going to be a very fast-paced read. And like I said, I'm excited to try out this author to see if the other books are going to be ones that I'm interested in as well. Back to romances, of course, I just can't help myself. The other book that I got is called King of Wrath by Anna Huang. This is going to be a reread for me. So this book is the first book in her Kings of Sin series, where basically each of her main characters represent a different deadly sin. So again, in this one, the first one, it's going to be Wrath. And I think she has 4 or 5 books out right now so far in the series, and I have loved every single one of them. They all feature like billionaire men who have a little bit of a morally gray side. They don't always follow the letter of the law, or they tend to be overprotective, getting revenge, that sort of thing, and they fall hard for their women, which I just absolutely adore. So in this first book, I picked it up because I love the cover. I'm excited to collect them all because I think the spines look really nice, and this is definitely a series that I'll see myself rereading often. So the first book in the series is about Dante Russo, and he is a billionaire, and he never really considered love to be important in his life. He was never planning to get married until someone threatens him with blackmail, and his cost is to marry the daughter of this man who's blackmailing him. So his daughter is Vivian, so she's the heiress to like this big jewelry empire. and kind of his newest enemy. So now he's being forced into this situation that he has no interest in under the threat of blackmail. And all he can think about is getting back at this man who has upended his entire life. But Vivian starts to get under his skin, and he definitely senses a connection there. So he's kind of warring with trying to completely destroy her father's life while also developing feelings for Vivian. And there's just a great tension there between them, as both of them are thrust in this situation that they did not want. They're complete strangers who kind of become reluctant friends and eventually more. So it's just a really fun book, and I loved seeing Dante wrestling with his feelings throughout this one. But like I said, the whole series so far has been excellent. So if you love billionaire romances, she has great banter and just really interesting stories, you're going to want to give this series a try. The last book I have today is the complete surprise. Like I said, this is definitely not something that I would normally read, but I saw it at the library and I had to give it a try because it came highly recommended. And that book is Heir to the Empire by Timothy Zahn. So this is Star Wars fanfic. It's from the 1990s, I think it was written, and it's basically meant to be a sequel to the original 3 Star Wars movies. So if you're thinking about the ones that came out first, that was number 4, 5, and 6, and this happens right, I think 5 years after the events of those movies. So it's still got Han Solo and Leia and Luke as they're dealing with this new threat to this tentative republic that they're setting up. So this is the first book in a trilogy, and I am, I don't know, maybe a third of the way through so far, and just really enjoying it a lot more than I expected. I know this is so nerdy, but I really like the Star Wars movies, and if you like the movies as well, then you're absolutely going to love this book. It honestly feels like I'm just watching continuation of that movie series. So I'm really excited that we're back with all of our favorite characters, even R2-D2 and C-3PO, and we've got some new characters and this new threat again. The Empire is kind of rebuilding around this one new villain, which is a lot of fun. So it's just been an excellent read. It's really fast paced because, like I said, there's a lot of action, a lot of things happening as we're kind of picking up where we left off as this new government is trying to be built, but also deal with this new threat. So if you're a Star Wars fan, you're definitely going to want to give this a try. Timothy Zahn has also wrote a ton of books in this expanded universe within Star Wars, but I've heard that this is part of just a trilogy, like I said, and I might just read the trilogy, see where I go from there, because I don't need Star Wars to take over my reading life, but I do at least highly recommend this trilogy so far. So that wraps up a quick overview of all of the new books that I've gotten recently. Let me know in the comments if you've picked up any new books that you're really excited to read as well. Like I said, hit subscribe so you can see more videos like this in the future.